Hello, everyone. Dr. Gandhi here. Good morning. So excited for today's episode of Ruminations on Gratitude. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Just giving my guest speaker a few minutes to come on. Just making sure you all can hear me well. Making sure technology is working. Good morning, everyone. Okay, let me get my dear friend on here. Give me a minute, guys. Here we go. Hey. She's coming on. There
Hi.
she is. Good morning. Happy Sunday.
Sunday. It's
I can
so
say good evening.
luck here, but thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. I'm so honored to have you here. So happy we can connect in this way. So grateful for technology.
I know it's fantastic, isn't it? I enjoy live chat much. And especially because obviously we've met as part of the conscious parenting community. Oh, I just love to chat to my conscious parents.
Yay! So excited. Welcoming everyone in. I can't wait for you all to meet my amazing international guest speaker, my dear friend and colleague. So while we're waiting, I thought we would just all put in the chat box or share verbally, at least you and I, Nishti, what we're grateful for. Just the first thing that pops up, let's share, because science proves and shows us that it's the sharing, the active practice of sharing your gratitude, putting the pen to the paper, or listening to someone's description of what gave them joy and what they're thankful for really is mutually beneficial for each of our health. It's just fascinating to me. So hello, everyone. Put something in the chat box.
I
What are
look
you
forward to,
grateful for?
yeah, what people have to say.
Yes, we love to make this interactive.
I'm just
Go ahead. Yes.
I'm grateful for my connection with you.
Oh,
The first time we met, it was just a connection, and then we met again. I think was it New York first time, and then LA. Yeah, I'm just grateful for real connection, because I think when you get older, you just appreciate how you just really hit it off with someone, and it's just to still be in contact, and you're on the other side of the world. Like I'm
mm-hmm.
grateful for that.
Oh my goodness, I felt that so deeply. And I was going to share that too when I introduce you, that exact sentiment. Yes, 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 yes. I just got a chill. Thank you. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to keep connected despite all of the pandemic and all the craziness. And I'm so happy to have our audience here.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful. Dr. Monica, grateful for this platform that allows us to connect with like-minded friends. Yes, we get to choose how we use social media. We get to choose and curate what comes on our feeds. Let's use the algorithm in our favor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do that. All right, so why don't I just go ahead and get started, because I know it's Sunday evening for Nishti and it's Sunday morning here, and Sundays are a day that, precedes the upcoming week. So it's nice for us to have, I hope, a joyful conversation, an insightful conversation, and start the week with some peace and some gratitude. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, to episode 49 of Ruminations on Gratitude. I am Dr. Gandhi. I'm a physician, I'm a parent, I'm a dog mom, and it's my sincere passion to empower everyone I meet on this journey to take control of their own health and well-being. So I would say January of 2021, so after that first year of the pandemic, I felt this need, this desire to come back to my practice of gratitude. Gratitude, an active practice in my life, has been a transformational wellness tool. It's really been a tool I use to do a lot of inner work and to really change the lens in which I viewed wellness and well-being and health. And it's really just you know, shifted the trajectory of my life. And I often share that. And so I'll share that again today. So today it's my deep honor, my sincere honor to introduce my amazing friend and colleague, Nishti Uday. She is a dietitian and a mindfulness teacher for children and parents. She helps with cow's milk protein allergies, diabetes, weight issues, eating disorders, and so much more. And I think what I sincerely respect about her approach is how she infuses mindfulness as well as agency. And, you know, she really establishes the relationship that we need to have with food, with our nutrition. And I really respect that and admire her method. And her recipe posts make me so hungry. I wish I could just jump on a plane and head over to her house and eat with her because she makes me so
Yeah.
ravenous. They're so delicious. And I just want to share on a personal note what dear Nishti had just shared with all of you that was so touching is that I had the pleasure of meeting her in person at a couple conscious parenting conferences in California. And, you know, her energy is so warm and inviting, and we just hit it off with this understood comfort instantly. And it was as if we had known each other for years.
Yeah.
And that's so powerful, that type of connection. And so I'm just echoing what you said, dear Nishti. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you for that. I'll call you Dipti.
Yes,
That's
whatever.
okay.
Yes.
Gandhi, but
Yes.
it sounds so formal because you're my dear friend. So yeah, I'm a dietitian, but you know, more than that, I'm a holistic dietitian because very early on in my career, I realized that it's not just about food, you know, and working with children, I'm a pediatric dietitian. I realized that working with children, I have to also work with the parent. And that's actually how I became interested in conscious parenting. Because when I started to attend all the conferences in America for conscious parenting, it was for myself, but it was also having the client in mind. You know, we see so many parents who struggle to feed their children, or children with anxiety and mental health issues, but actually the parent also struggles. So I call myself a specialist dietitian for children and parents. And that's because I firmly believe that I cannot just look at the child itself without also taking into consideration the parent and everything that happens in that environment, the parents' upbringing. You know, sorry, you asked me to introduce myself. This is not really an introduction, but but
No, it's absolutely fine.
you know, taking into consideration our upbringing, our inner child. As a
Mhm.
dietitian, I like to bring the whole package to my consultations, but it's not for everyone to want to hear that. So I think I've become better at when I can provide a more holistic approach and when I need to just provide A, B, C, D. You see what I'm
Oh, I
saying?
can imagine. Absolutely. I can imagine that. And yes, it certainly does take, you know, some insight and discernment to see, you know, what approach is going to work to best honor the child that's your patient. I can only imagine. Good morning, everyone. All right. So thank you so much, Nishti, for that introduction. And I thought what we would do is just start by exploring some questions with Nishti. And so I'm going to just start off, Nishti, and kind of ask you, what is mindful nutrition and how is that the same or different from intuitive eating? If you could just kind of illustrate that for us.
So mindful eating or intuitive eating is essentially the same thing. And it's about being aware of when we're hungry and why we're hungry and what we want to eat. Intuitive eating is a concept that's developed by two dietitians in the early 90s. So it's essentially the same thing, but intuitive eating is sort of, you know, is developed by these dietitians. So it's used a lot in the world of dietetics. So there's a lot of scientific evidence around intuitive eating, and a lot of dietitians love to talk about it and use it in with their patients, because it's a bit like rejecting the diet mentality, but actually on your body instead, and not listening to what everyone else says and of how we should eat, but actually what does our body want. So mindful eating or intuitive eating is essentially grounded on mindfulness. It's the principles of mindfulness that we have to think about. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is, being in the present moment. And when we eat, most of us are not in the present moment. We're either in our head, or we watch TV, we're distracted. But I must say, if anyone here is practicing mindful eating or intuitive eating, please let us know. Because I think I'm not a big fan of the word intuitive eating.
Okay.
And this is when we have to bring in a bit of spirituality. Because not everyone knows how to listen to their intuition. So it's not something we all have learned, and that's based on our childhood, isn't it? So if you were not allowed to be, if you were not seen or heard, or if you were just, if you just had food on the table, but you weren't actually allowed to sort of feel and speak how you wanted to speak as a child, which most of us may be able to relate to, then how are you culture that inner awareness, that intuition, which is a muscle?
Such a good point, Nishti. Just because I was going to ask you, sorry to interrupt, I was just going to ask you, how do you know that one cookie's enough? What if you feel like, well, inside I feel like I need 3 more, right?
Yes. I'd say, oh, my intuition is telling me I need a glass of wine with the cookie. I need to do that. But actually, so that's the number one problem. Number 2 is we need to now talk a bit about spirituality. We have to bring that in, I feel.
Yes, tell us.
And that is, we need to distinguish between intuition and ego.
Yes.
So if you go on to intuitiveeating.com or whatever it is, it says, honor your body, honor your fullness, reject diet mentality, all of that we all know. It's just cliche. Turn off the TV, turn off your phone. And I sat reading those questions and I'm like, but where's the how? Do this. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself, Peter. Be kind to yourself, Lisa. But how? So this is why we need to, when we talk about mindful eating, we have to talk about mindfulness.
Yes.
So, and
absolutely.
Intuition and ego, and we have to talk about those two. This is when you can go really deep. This is for people that are willing to really go deep, because and master mindful eating, because the ego is so very different from intuition.
Yeah, we should expand upon that. So if anyone has any questions, put them in the chat box. But so I was just going to offer something, and I want you to expand upon this, Nishti. So, in lay people's terms, when we use the word ego, we just think, oh, look at that guy. He's so pompous. He's so arrogant. Look at his big ego. He's so full of himself, right? Okay. So the ego is not only that, it's also the naysayer, the inner critic. It's also a combination of the one that's like, hey, I deserve that. I deserve that glass of wine with that cookie. I had a horrible day. My boss was a jerk, all this kind of stuff, right? And it's just, again, making that distinction from what you said, which is your intuition, the part of you that knows your truth and knows what's actually healthy and good for you, the one that'll say, don't go down that alley. It just, something's not feeling good right now. The one that says, you've had a glass, maybe that's enough today. Maybe one cookie's enough, right? And it's so hard to discern because that little ego is so sneaky. it'll just sneak up on you. And so I'm so glad that you are bringing that element of really of what does it mean, the ego versus your intuition.
Yeah, because intuition is our true self.
Hmm.
We don't cultivate the true self, which is authenticity, which is, as Simi says, is our essence,
Yes.
our the real us versus the ego. The real us, the way to cultivate that has to be mentioned when we talk about mindful eating. So if you want to become a mindful eater or an intuitive eater, these are the ways. First of all, how do we distinguish between the true self and the ego? We know that the ego is judgmental. It's my anxiety and fear. So let's say you want to go on a diet because you want to lose the weight. Where does that come from? Does it come from a place of lack or from abundance? Is it a place of lack? Perhaps someone said to you, you've gained some weight, or perhaps your friend has lost some weight and you compared yourself and now you want to go on a diet. That's the ego, right? So first of all, we need to know what's the intention? You know, why do I want to do what I want to do? Where does that come from? I mean, this is a lot of work.
I love it. I love it. Getting underneath the thought, right? So without going and getting a PhD in psychology, just get underneath the thought. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I actually feeling this way?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And just saying,
okay,
someone said something, I looked in the mirror and I felt like didn't look right in this dress. Yes. I love that. That's so important. I just want to highlight everything you said.
And Dipti, if that's the case, if you highlight that you've come from a place of fear, because there's only a place of fear or love, isn't it? As Mary Williamson says.
That's
so
it.
Coming from fear, you know your ego is talking. And you take a break. You do not go on any diet. You do not make any decision when you're in ego. You just have a pause and wait.
Pause.
Whereas intuition is quiet, it's peaceful, and it requires stillness. It requires you to be present, and that's how you cultivate it. That's why stillness and meditation and present moment living is essential to cultivate intuition. So before anyone wants to go on a diet, or if you want to have a healthy relationship with food, I always say you need to have a healthy relationship with yourself first.
So powerful.
Stop focusing on the bloody burger or the salad. You know, it's so much deeper than that. We always make it outside. We need to stop it. It's not working. Come back. Why are you choosing low vibrational foods? Why are you choosing low vibrational foods, meaning, you know, it has no nutritional value? Is it because you yourself are in a low vibrational state? Are you Are you judging yourself? Are you criticizing yourself? Are you not kind? Do you need a self-care day? How do you speak to yourself? You know, and that's why mindful eating is not just turning off your phone and not watching TV and, you know, honoring your body. You can only honor your body when you actually know how to, and you've taken time out, you know. So
such great points. Someone just said, recognizing the tone. Yes, the ego sometimes is masking a bigger issue, isn't it? And I love what you just shared. Don't get focused on the outside. Is the keto diet the best for me? You know, it's an inside job. And when they say, okay, turn off your phone and, you know, turn off the TV, that's the starting point. But the reason is because you can sit with yourself. And until you are comfortable in sitting with your own solitude, with your own nonstop thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? Until you get comfortable with that and have a practice that allows you to give your mind a break from constantly the thoughts are always in the past or in the future, right? 99% of our thoughts are in the past and the future. Yeah. And until you can, as they say, get still with yourself, give yourself solitude, sit with it, and really and start to enjoy and feel comfortable, because it's very uncomfortable in the beginning. I remember I thought meditation was a box I had to tick in my life. I literally did. And I was focused on, how am I going to do it? Oh my goodness. And I tried all these practices and none of them resonated until I found something, right? And there is something for everyone. But until you get comfortable with knowing the intuition, the voice of your intuition or your essence, or whatever anyone wants to call it, Jiminy Cricket, right, from Pinocchio, until you get comfortable with that, you can't, cultivate this practice of knowing what voice it is. And it's still very hard. We're only human. And I just wanted to touch on something, and I wanted to hear what you think, Nishti, and what maybe the audience thinks. So, this word intuition often in the past was considered pretty woo-woo. Like, intuition, what is that? Oh, it's that character in Pinocchio or what have you. So intuition, if you think about it, it's using everything you have learned on your journey of life, your senses, all of it. It's an amalgamation, of all of that together. It's
Yeah.
and right, and you hone it as you go on, and you learn, and you hopefully gain more wisdom from everything you go through. So it's something that can be sharpened and understood on a deeper and deeper level.
And it's your higher self, isn't it? It's what it wants the best for you. The
Mm,
ego want the best for you. And the ego is an accumulation of other people's opinions, and including your parents, your teachers, and society. So, I've just noticed, when you watch Netflix and people are stressed, they have alcohol. And I just can't help to notice that, because we are bombarded every day with messages. And if we are not aware, we are literally being shown and taught how to drink and how to eat through what we watch and read, and so we just have to really awareness and being really alert throughout the day, because our ego is not us, and it's an accumulation of all these things. And that's why becoming a mindful eater, you have to look at all these rules and all these habits that you have, and go back and track where they come from,
mm,
so
so powerful.
who says you need to, okay, for example, with children, oh, you've done well at school, oh, you're sad, here's an ice cream,
Mm-hmm.
get positive and negative feelings with
Right.
food. And then we think that is the intuition telling us, now I'm an adult, but all through my childhood, I was told whenever I was sad, here's an ice cream. Now I'm an adult and I'm feeling sad, so I think my intuition is telling me I need to eat ice cream. No, that's ego,
Right. Such a good point.
But you have to, it takes inner work. That's why inner work cannot be bypassed. We have to continue this journey within.
Absolutely right. And I just wanted to talk and touch a little bit more on that word ego, right? So the ego's job is to protect us, right? So, often I feel like we ego bash, right? We're very negative about that darn ego. But we have to have some compassion. The
Yeah.
ego is our protector, right? And it's driven by fear and lack. Let's think about the human brain, right? The human brain is designed to prioritize fear and danger. Right?
Mm.
That is what you react and respond to, number one. That's the basis of our survival as a species, right?
Yeah, so,
That's going to stand out a lot more than
yeah.
good news. Bad news stands out more because fear, survival, danger, all of that. We are programmed. This brain is programmed to do that. So we have to have compassion.
Yeah,
That's what it's going to do, right?
I completely agree, Dipsy. We have to have compassion, because it is like a hurt inner child,
Yes. And
really.
it
And
has protected you. It
yeah,
has saved your life, right?
Yeah.
But it's just then as you get older, knowing like, when do I need to rely on that, and when do I not? And also, just a simple offering is that maybe not everyone is aware of, is not everything you think is the truth and is
Mhm.
coming from you, right? So just knowing, like, not all these thoughts are coming from your essence, your intuition. In fact, most of the thoughts that we think in our head are coming from, they're generational, they're societal.
Yeah.
We're bombarded, right? With all sorts of thoughts and information. So just something to think about. Just because you think it doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
And so that's a very kind of preliminary realization to have before you infuse mindfulness and what it means into your life and into your own nutrition. I mean, Nishti, we could just go on and on and on, but, and I feel like we could talk for hours just on, right, the ego and intuition. And, you know, I'm going to just say one thing. I'm going to ask you a question just to shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
So tell us, Nishti, what do you wish the parents of your patients, your children patients, would do more of or do less of when it comes to nourishing their children?
Oh, it's very simple.
I love it.
I wish that parents would look at their children as the prime teachers of mindful eating. They know what they want, how much they want. They don't care about what you think and how much the the dietitian or the doctor has told you a child should eat based on an equation, requirements, everything we were taught at university. Children are doing their own thing, and what parents need to do more of is to step back and watch and
Mm,
learn from the greatest teacher. That's why conscious parenting, you cannot get away from it, even when it comes to feeding, particularly when it comes to feeding. Your child is teaching you and showing you what they are all about. Oh, I, I,
oh,
I
wow.
I always get goosebumps. I say this message every week. I still get goosebumps because we don't get it yet.
No.
One day we will. One day I think we will. Children teach us, my nephew, he loves
Mm,
protein and vegetables. And, it's just fascinating. I love to watch how he's just, and luckily his parents are not too concerned. It's more my parents that are concerned. And he's a protein boy. He doesn't like carbs, and when I work with parents, I always ask them, so what would your child eat on the plate when you serve the food? Oh, they gravitate towards the potatoes first, or actually they're not bothered about the meats, they want beans, and how are they going to get enough iron? And then they start panicking because they read on Google that a child should have this amount of iron. And you know what? Guidelines are just guidelines. And I have seen children who eat meat who are still iron deficient. And I've seen children who are autistic and who only eat beige foods and who don't take supplements and who are not iron deficient. So what this teaches me is that I do not know anything. I don't know anything, and nor do you as a parent, but your child does.
That's so powerful. And I'm just going to share that I probably would have been the worst client. Um, yeah,
No,
definitely.
no.
Because and I don't know if anyone else here has been like this. I hope not, because, oh my goodness. So maybe with the medical training, oh goodness gracious. Like, I remember one of my kids, feeding them, and my thinking is like, listen, they need to get nourishment and have their tummy full enough so that they sleep, because then I can sleep. Right? Because I'm exhausted. So I'm like trying to feed. And of course, one of them, his specialty was just to keep it in one side of his mouth, specifically one cheek. He would get so mad if I was like kind of gently, poking, like, hey, you have that morsel in there, and like so angry. And I remember, of course, obsessing about vegetables and fruit, and you need to get enough of that and get your protein. And it's been such an interesting journey. And as I did this, and as I, found conscious parenting to be something that I needed to infuse in my life so that my parenting was attuned to my children, and I needed to reparent myself and understand and unlearn along the way, just as you said, I realized I needed to back off, because what the parent teaches, what they model, ends up being the child's relationship with food. And it can lead to, and I'm not completely blaming the parents, I'm just sharing as a parent as well as a physician in healthcare who sees, the different sides of this. It can lead to, and sometimes tip the scale on, eating disorders and other problems that people face.
Yeah. The child is showing you their true essence. So don't strip it away, because you yourself, and this is no blame or judgment. Sometimes I can be quite frank in how I speak, but I mean this with love. None of us are perfect.
Of course.
You yourself are having all these teachings from your own childhood and you growing up, and Google and all that is sort of projected onto our children. All that garbage is just put onto our children when actually they're pure. And what you can do, your responsibility, is to provide a range of nutritious foods. Obviously, you don't want to give them burgers and crisps and chips or whatever you call it in America. You want to provide them with the best nutrition, but it's their choice. And it's so interesting if, for parents hearing this, watch your child and really watch them. What are they all about? Because perhaps that's the kind of diet that suits them.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I knew what I was into as a kid, because I would know that would be that's my kind of thing, that's how I should eat. You see children, I often see children who are more sort of likely to be vegans. They only eat the beans, fruit, and vegetables. And I just think it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating. And that's the one thing I wish parents could do, is actually to back off. It's literally to back off and watch.
Yes. And it's so interesting and fascinating what you said about, listen, in the end, each of us has our own system. It's our own unique body, right? So even though, one child is having an iron deficiency from eating a certain way, and the next one, the one next to it isn't seemingly eating all these iron rich foods, and they have no problem with iron deficiency. So that's what it ends up being, right? It's not a one size fits all. It's honoring them. It's letting them feel their emotions and know, what works for them, what feels good, what feels right, and to be connected with themselves, essentially, right? With some guidance, of course. You're not going to give them a plate full of a variety of cookies only. I mean, they might like that initially, but, and what I noticed too, as mine get older, and my children have been my greatest teachers, honestly, despite all the years of schooling and this and that and the other. Oh no, greatest teachers, the two of them. I've noticed too, and I love this about your approach, is that element of agency goes a long way. Giving choice. I know sometimes you're exhausted, or sometimes you're in a situation where it's like, listen, all we have is a burger, or all we have is some nuts and some crisps or chips. We are in a bind. We've just got to fill our tummies today. But giving agency when you can, if you have access and privilege to offering that, really goes a long way when they get to choose, well, which vegetable do you want to add to, what you're eating? Which fruit would you like to add? Like, what are you liking? Tell me, I'll put it on the list. Let me try to see if I can grab that from the store.
Yes.
If you can.
Yes. Oh, can I just add to that? Because
please.
I spoke to a parent, and her son only eats like 3 or 4 vegetables. And I thought, when she said, oh, he doesn't eat many vegetables, I thought she would say like 1, but he eats 4. And then she mentioned the ones he doesn't eat. And I was like, he's eating plenty, to focus on what he is actually eating, That's again because we read that perhaps, broccoli it's rich in calcium, so they have to have that. But that's not what they want, so forget about it. And sorry, Dipti, there's one more thing I forgot.
Please, please.
As well, stepping back and observing your child, but also observe your why you're being triggered. Why if your child doesn't finish the veggies, or if your child doesn't want to eat, why are you being triggered? You're being triggered because you think they'll go to bed hungry and they may starve and lose weight. Those are all projections and predictions of the future, which haven't happened.
Right.
Come back to the present moment. You're being triggered because a child doesn't want to eat breakfast. Your kid is refusing breakfast. You're being triggered. Why? They need to eat breakfast. Why? Because it's the healthiest meal of the day. Why? My mom told me that. So if you look back at why we're triggered, I mean, that's powerful.
That's so powerful, Dishti. And I was just going to add, we have to remember when we're nourishing children, whether you are a teacher at school or, a loving aunt, uncle, grandparent, parent, what have you, we're nourishing a child. Their behavior is not permanent. They're not going to never eat breakfast for the rest of their lives now because they didn't eat it today. Right?
I love that.
And it's not personal, right? And I wanted to share that it's not permanent. It's not personal, because I learned that from our mutual friend, Roma Ketterpal. Such a great reminder. It's not personal. They're doing what works for them. It might be really inconvenient and irritating to me because I have my parental agenda and I ultimately want them to sleep so I can sleep, right? That's my projection. What if they don't sleep well for one night? What if you don't sleep well for one night? Okay. Life was still going to go on. It's not forever. Them not liking, again, I could just share, I would have been your worst client. Them not eating broccoli now doesn't mean they're not going to enjoy it later. Maybe they won't. Okay. Is that the end of the world that your child doesn't eat broccoli as an adult? No, it's not. There's so many other things you can eat.
Well, the ego will catastrophize things, isn't it? It will catastrophize everything at breakfast time or at lunch or dinner time. And also, there was another thing I wanted to say, but I forgot it now. It was something important.
It'll come back.
It will come back. But, it's just, you see everything in life, whether you're feeding your children or whether you're out with a friend. Oh, yes, now I remember. I think probably the biggest trigger for parents, and please quote me if I'm wrong, is that at the end of the day, the reason why they're triggered is because they feel less of a parent. They don't feel good enough because their child haven't eaten a full meal. So it's not about the child, it's about us. And this epidemic of feeling, no sense of worth.
Not good enough.
Not good enough. And it's all that not good enough stuff that comes up, particularly as we know with our parents, with our children.
Oh, yes.
And if they don't eat how you want them to eat, you don't feel good enough. So do you see, it's not about your child. Don't tell me you are a great parent, care about your child and what they eat. No, you are caring. Well, you're not caring, but you are more so living in your head, and you are so triggered, you don't even know it. And your wounds have been poked. You don't feel good enough, and it's affecting our children. And Dipti, I see a lot of children as young as 11 with an eating disorder.
No, it's so
11.
sad.
And the parents always have, and I would say 90% of the disorder.
Absolutely right. So true.
We have to solve our own issues, otherwise our children will be affected.
Yes, they will. And I just want to highlight what you just said. So, sometimes you're out and about and you hear parents actually saying like, oh, my child has gained so much weight. Oh, they're going for those cookies again, and of course you understand, you want the child to be healthy. You want them to be at a healthy weight for their body type. and all of that. You want them to be properly nourished. But, you know, saying those little things and having that energy, they feel it and they know when mom and dad is looking at them, you know, as, oh, you're going to eat all of that. You need 2 slices, or, you know, that kind of thing. I just want to share that because it's so hard when you feel like your child might be overweight or underweight or, you know, not as healthy as possible. Like you said, it triggers you, but I just want to highlight something. Having an eating disorder is very often a lifelong illness and battle for those patients. Having patients who've had it really affects your relationship with food for the rest of your life. And I want to highlight something. I have deep compassion for people, for my patients with eating disorders or a very complicated relationship with food, because it's one of the few, I don't know if I want to say addiction or compulsions that you can't live without, right? So if, for example, someone has a problem with alcohol, well, it's not easy. I have great compassion. I know it's coming from a deep pain, but you don't need alcohol to survive as a human being. You don't. Food, you need, right? So you cannot avoid it. You've got to nourish yourself. You've got to eat food. So I have a special deep compassion for patients dealing with that. It's such a difficult relationship. And it just has to be, yes, it just has to be faced. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, the other day I said to someone, I said on Instagram, I said, "Oh, I can't remember what the question was exactly, but it was about food, you know, or are you excited to eat, or something like that." And someone said no, and I know the people that answered no, I know they have an eating disorder.
Mhm.
So I made a statement, and it's a bit like what Simi says. I said, you know, oh no, do you want a healthy relationship with food? Yes, no, and some people said no. And I thought about it, and then I thought, oh, that was a bit insensitive of me to say, but you know, because obviously I work with both end of the spectrum, over
Sure.
eating disorder. But actually, when I reflected on it, and I was like, you know what? You have to have a healthy relationship with food. It's the fuel for the body. You cannot say you don't want to have a healthy relationship with food. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you know. So I said that, and then you know, I didn't hear back, but that's okay. I have to speak the truth, and that's
Yeah.
just, you know.
I agree. I agree. We have to. And listen, we're all human. We're not trying to blame, you know, anyone. I think I remember I was obsessed with candy as a child. I mean, my mother taught me I was obsessed with candy. And,
Yeah,
you know, I'm happy to say I don't eat candy all day. You know, so maybe there's hope. There's hope. Just a light little joke for everybody. But my goodness, we could go on and on. So let's talk about mindful nutrition, our relationship with food, and gratitude. So I'm just going to shift gears and I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about gratitude. So, you know, when we talk about gratitude and eating, what came to mind was the fact that there is like mealtime grace. The concept of that is really kind of universal. And it's a custom in many cultures, many spiritual traditions for thousands of years. And there was an interview, I read an article where they interviewed Adrian Boutache, who is the author of Bless Your Food, Ancient and Contemporary Graces from Around the World. And, you know, he was sharing that in some cases they found like drawings in caves from our early ancestors depicting gratitude or joy for having food. And we have to remember, I mean, now we have all these ways of preserving and keeping food. I mean, thousands of years ago we didn't. You, whatever you were able to hunt and gather was it. And you might have had abundance one day and you might have had a lack and not enough one day. So there was a deeper grace or gratitude for our food. And in fact, there's even like mention in the Mahabharata, which is a Hindu text, he mentioned where they talk of that. And so Butash was also talking about how some communities like to thank God or the higher being they believe in. Others like to express gratitude for the plant, for the vegetable, for the animal that was sacrificed for them to eat. And he said a lot of the time it's just simply about rejoicing what you have, just having gratitude for what's in front of you at that moment. So I just always thought that was really interesting. And then I just also wanted to ask you, Nishti, if you had any last thoughts or closing remarks before I share some quotes.
No, I just think what you said about gratitude, you know, because I think as a holistic dietitian, although I may not have a study I can pull out to prove this, especially when we talk about vibration and food, but I do think we are vibrational beings. And I think what you put into your body will affect the vibration of your body. And I think, you know, the higher your vibration, the more of a better state of mind you will be in, right? Absolutely. And I think that when you're cooking, you need to think about the energy that you're bringing to the cooking. When you're eating, when you're drinking a glass of water, that moment of gratitude or even an affirmation, do you call it a samskara, I think, in Hindi? Like if you have an affirmation before you eat, I think that could dramatically change. This is not scientifically proven. Obviously, you know how it is. We need to practice evidence-based, you know, care. But some things are just
felt.
Yeah, felt. And that's where holistic care comes in. And this is the missing thing, I think, missing part of the puzzle. And
she's saying yes, samskar. She's saying yes.
Okay, yes, samskara. So an affirmation could dramatically change. I mean, I think I could dramatically change the vibration of my water through my thinking. Wow. And bringing joy and gratitude, but also where you're eating, you know, are you out a lot? Because think about where we eat out, you know, what are their intentions? What's the intention of Nando's that we have here, which I love, you know, chicken and all that. They are just a chain of restaurants, and obviously they want to serve chicken and make money, you know, like they're not there to serve, you know, whereas if you go to your friend's house, they invited you for dinner, they're there to serve, you know, that's a different energy. Don't eat out a lot. That's what I'm trying to say. Eat at home. Think about the vibration. Turn off radio. Turn off the radio when you're cooking. It is a sacred act when you're cooking and when you're eating. So it's not just what you eat, how much protein and where does the protein come from. It's also how is that protein cooked and where is it cooked and what was your state of mind when you cooked that, you know?
I love that. I love that. And I was just going to share too, you know, there is science that does support certain practices. So what I feel that you're mentioning is to really be energetically connected with the process of nourishing yourself and, you know, be very intentional about it. So I was just going to share, since the series is all about gratitude, there are studies that show that people who have an active practice of gratitude, for example, journaling, like what I mentioned, daily, tend to make better, healthier choices in their life. They tend to exercise more. They tend to eat better. They tend to make better choices, as I just said, when it comes to their health. And it's all connected. That mind body, you know, connection is so strong.
Because gratitude is an act of self-love, isn't it? And self-love is also how you cultivate your intuition or your true self, your essence. So asking throughout the day, what do I want? What, you know, I've noticed that when I'm tired, I want to eat. And I, you know, I'm a doer. So now I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I'm having a nap at 1 p.m. You know, and things have changed. And it's just crazy. If the more you listen, the more you'll be aware of what your body wants. But ask yourself as well, what would someone who loved themselves eat or do right now? Would someone who loved themselves, would they stay home tonight or go out? Or would they, we can always ask ourselves those questions. Can I just say, Dipti, Dr. Monica said an eating disorder is considered
Yeah.
a health issue. Yes, but I just want to add to that, because what we see in children with, I work primarily with children who have an eating disorder. They struggle with perfectionism and
Mm.
a deep, deep sense of no worth, zero.
Mm.
And then you can see it, how it comes from the parents. And so, yes, it's obviously mental health related, and it's not just as easy as, uh, love yourself more, and yes, then you can get a healthy relationship with food, because they are really mired in they are living in their mind. When they
Mm.
eat, they're not present. They are attached to all the thoughts
Mm.
that say this is not good, this will make you fat. So they are living,
Yeah.
they're following their thoughts, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And I'm just going to add to that. I appreciate what Dr. Monica shared and what you shared, Nishti. I was reading somewhere that ultimately, when you have an eating disorder, it's also about your feelings on whether you're allowed to desire.
Mm.
And I thought that was such an interesting way of looking at it, whether it was okay to desire more or to simply desire or long for something. So in children, if that's met with, and I do it too, like, really, you're going to have, 4 ice cream cones, like, maybe that's not so good for you, right? We are meant to be their guides, but
Yes.
there's a link to whether I am allowed, I am worthy enough to be allowed to want
Wow.
something. And it was so powerful when I heard that. I couldn't believe it, And and now I again want to say, like, I'm not just saying this to blame parents and adults. It's just, like you said, taking yourself and your ego and fears out of it and attuning to the child at this moment in front of you who gets to change their whole life. But at this moment, what
Yeah.
is going on? And I thought that was really powerful. So we could talk for 3 more hours, but I'm
We
going to share some quotes, and then we're going to see how we can connect and follow Nishti and her work. Follow her right now, everybody. So here's the first one. Eating should be very joyful. I pick up my food. I take time to look at it for a moment before I put it into my mouth. I smile to it, put it into my mouth, and chew with complete awareness of what I am eating. After eating, I feel nourished, not only physically, but also mentally and spiritually. Thich Nhat Hanh.
Oh,
Right? Chills.
yeah, the most soothing voice of Thich Nhat Hanh shone.
Mm.
That was beautiful.
I feel like that echoed so much of what we talked about and what you shared. Here's the next one. One cannot think well, love well, sleep well if one has not dined well. Virginia Woolf. Okay, so that's me. Hashtag hangry. I should just like have it tattooed right here. Everyone beware. My family knows. Make sure she eats. Make sure she's eaten, because it's not good.
Right, yeah.
And I'm going to share the last one. Oh, let me just jump in and see. That's profound. Like he says, any activity can be meditative. Right. And it's
Yeah.
infusing that mindfulness in everything. And I think what I notice as I try to be more mindful with eating is you end up eating exactly the amount you need, which is what our children try to do before we bombard
They,
them.
they do it all.
They do it already. All right. Last quote is, mindful eating is about awareness. When you
Mm,
eat mindfully, you slow down, pay attention to the food you're eating, and savor every bite. Susan Albers.
lovely.
All right, Nishti, where can we find you? How can we follow your work? Please tell us.
So obviously I'm on Nishti's Choice on Instagram. I'm very active there. But I'm also on TikTok now.
Yes, me
I,
too.
I prefer Instagram. But I'm just trying to move with the times.
Sure.
I provide online consultations to people across the world, really. So I have insurance to also cover America. So
Brilliant.
anyone who fancies a consultation for themselves or for their child, reach out. It's all holistic and it is deep dive. I don't do superficial stuff. I don't know how to. I like to go really deep to the core. It takes time, but it's so worth it because it's lasting change, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I can imagine that really improving the relationship between the parent and child.
Yes, that's essentially what will help the child, but also the parent.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Nishti. It's been
Oh,
an honor. This hour just, blew by so quickly. And I feel like we're going to have you on again, definitely in the future.
anytime.
Thank you so much. Great conversation, ladies. Really enjoyed it. So good to see you both together. Yes, and so good to have all of
Thank you.
you. This was so enlightening and thought-provoking, and it's just a different way of looking at food, nutrition, agency for our children that we hope will carry them throughout their life and hopefully spill out in different parts of their life, right? So thank you so much, audience. Thank you so
Thank
much, Nishti.
you
It was an honor to have you.
so much, Tipti. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you for all that you do. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Stay close to us.